Hi guys. Hi
Hey Liz,
Jennifer.
how's it
Hey.
going?
Good. How are
I
you?
am wonderful.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Well, hi guys. This is
Grace
Grace After
after
Grief,
grief,
our
our
story
story
for
for
his
his glory.
glory. And we're back with episode 4.
Four already.
4. We are in the beautiful hot state of Florida in March. Ugh. Listen, I've moved to Tennessee and
You had snow this
we had
year. Oh my goodness, lots of it too.
3 times, yeah. My daughter is 3 and she had a field day in that snow.
I would have.
But as soon as her fingertips started not feel, she was mad. She was like, "I'm cold." So, this heat wave down here has reminded me that Florida is hot, and I forgot about that.
It is.
So, yeah.
But we are at P2P
Yes.
Studios in Lake Placid, and we are
Yes.
very thankful to be here.
Thank you,
And you
guys.
notice that our setup is a little bit
Yeah, a
different
little
this
bit.
time.
Yep, we
It's
love it.
because we have interviewees.
Yes.
We're gonna open it up to somebody besides just you and I.
Yeah, super
And
exciting.
you had the ability to do the first one.
I did.
And you did it through like a Zoom call.
Yes, so we recorded it. I was still in Tennessee a few days ago, and we interviewed Josh, who is a funeral director here in Highlands County, Florida. So shout out, Josh. Thank you so much again for getting on with me. We had some technical difficulties because we didn't have the beautiful P2P peeps to help me with that. But we did a great job. He did wonderful. So we are going to go ahead and cut it back to that, and you can watch that interview, and we'll be right back. Hi, guys. This is Liz with Grace After Grief podcast. I'm joined by Joshua Baker. I have had this really heavy on my heart since I went through everything with Tim, with his funeral arrangements and cremation, to have someone on the podcast to talk about basically our first steps with what we do with our loved ones once they pass. So Josh was the first person that I thought of, and because he helped us and our family so very much. So thank you so much for making that process.
You're welcome.
So I kind of reached out to your wife's best friend, Candace, and was like, "Hey, would Josh be interested in this?" So, Josh, if you're ready, go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us a backstory on how you got into the business of the funeral home.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of got into it just by accident and by pure grace, I think. But I started when I was in high school, and even when I was in high school, I worked at the funeral home mainly. Even through high school, I only took like one class for senior year, and I was at the funeral home, pretty much the rest of the time there. But I've been licensed now for 16 years. Been in the funeral
Wow.
industry for 20. I've done my time a little bit. I've also have
Yeah.
about 3.5 years as a deputy coroner. Did a lot of death investigations,
Wow.
and got to see a lot of different types of death, pretty frequently.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
that about you. That's very
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
3 years you've been doing that, or did it for 3 years?
Yeah, I did it for about 3.5 years, and then
Okay.
when I moved to Florida, I kind of gave that up. That's a kind of a heavier part of the industry for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, if you were to meet someone that's never went through planning a funeral for like their spouse or maybe even their mom or dad, what are the first things that they should be prepared for, or what are some things that you think that they should know before they go into that process?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to realize that there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of things that go into this, even more than people can even fathom. So going through this with some people who have experience, and for people who are going to guide you through that is something you should have on your side. You're going to be asked first of all, vital information, people's place of birth, their social security number. So that's information that if you can talk to your family ahead of time, write it down, put it in a safe place, that you can have it, because these things happen, and if you need to reference that quickly, you have that. I can't tell you how much I would like for people to pre-need and take care of these things ahead of time. And they're so difficult to talk about, but they're important conversations, to have with your family. And it just takes, it doesn't take the pain away, but it does take some of the burden of having to answer 400 questions, as you're going through this. And certainly your circumstance, it was sudden, and you were kind of thrown into it. So and those are just things that you can't prepare for.
Right.
But that's what you can do to be ready.
Definitely. Make sure you have, your loved ones. If you can talk, this one thing that we've mentioned on the podcast already that I will say till I'm blue in the face. If you can at least have one conversation with your loved one, find out if they want to be
Yes,
buried or cremated. That is
exactly.
the first
Yes.
question. And I think you raise a great point there too, where make sure you know where their social security card is and, where they were born if you don't have their birth certificate. So thankfully, my husband and I kind of had, I mean, it was kind of all over the place, but I knew where things were. But
Yeah.
now I've been better where I kind of have all of our important documents in one spot so I could just grab and
Yes.
go. So
Yeah.
that's
Very, very
awesome.
important for people to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. What is the most common misconception people have about your daily work?
Oh, I think it's that they think that I'm just, around bodies, surrounded by bodies all day long.
Right.
Most of my job, probably 90% of it is dealing with the families and the details that go along with that. Um, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think the other one is that we sleep at the funeral home. That was a thing in the past. We no longer sleep at the funeral home. We spend our nights at home with our families, and we answer and care for you from our homes. But those are the two things that kind of stand out.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I never even realized that was a thing that funeral directors used to stay at the funeral
Yeah,
homes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
Before cell
interesting.
phones, they had to be
Mhm.
available, and somebody always had to be there. So.
Now, how often do you get called at home, like in the middle of the night for things? Does that happen often?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really?
We all share on an on-call schedule, but
Mhm.
it's not uncommon to get 3 or 4 calls sometimes in the period of a
Wow.
night. Yeah, yeah,
Oh my. Okay. I guess I never realized that they would just call
yeah.
you at 3 o'clock in the morning. Come get this
Oh,
person.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Death knows no time for sure.
Oh, that's true. That's very true. Yeah. How do you think our culture's avoidance of talking about death makes the grieving process harder? You kind of touched on it, but if you want to go more in detail.
Yeah, yeah. Society has changed. We no longer live and die in the same area anymore. We're very transient. People moving and people live across the country. So it has changed things a little bit, and I try to encourage all families, to take that moment and see them for the last time. That's the one thing that I see going away is people electing not to see their loved one, and it's certainly understandable. Some people just want to remember them for how they were, but there is some value in just the realness and just that last moment of the last moment that you can spend with them that you get to.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was one of my hardest things. Was wanting to see his body. 100% sure that I even wanted to go in there. At
Yeah.
first, I didn't. You guys were able to set that up for us before he was cremated, which again we're so thankful for. Yeah, I think it's hard. All things around death are hard, and starting this podcast and kind of digging a little deeper into death, as grim as that sounds, has made me realize that people don't like it. And unfortunately, that's one thing that we can all guarantee it's going to happen to us is we're going to die.
Yes, yes,
And you
exactly
can
right.
pretend that doesn't happen. It still gives me anxiety to like actually sit down and think about me actually not being here for my children, for my
Oh,
partner,
me
for
too. Me too.
but it's just the fact of reality, whether whatever you believe in or not, this is gonna happen. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know it's kind of grim, and some people were kind of caught off guard that I wanted to do like our first guest as someone in this field, but I thought,
Oh, I love it. No,
what?
no, I think it's an
Yeah,
important conversation. It truly is.
yeah, and it's like that's really your first. I mean, maybe the hospital or something like that might be your first stop, but really the funeral home is going to be your first stop. That's what you have to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I just
usually your
thought that
very
would be,
first contact. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. What has being around death every day taught you about living?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. For one, every minute is precious. Don't take anything for granted. I've just seen so many cases in the course of my career where just things happen suddenly, and it kind of changes, the future of people's lives because those people are gone. The important thing is just enjoying those moments, even the little ones that go so fast, and if you take them for granted, they're gone in a minute. I also have the importance of taking care of myself and making
Right.
sure that if your own mental health is not well, then you can't take care of other people. So I think that's an important side of all of this too.
Yeah, definitely. If you could give one piece of advice to someone currently in the waiting room of grief, what would it be? This kind of touches on our subject, but if there's just one thing you could tell somebody that hasn't lost anybody, maybe, I mean, there's people my age that haven't lost their grandparents, their parents, a friend, anyone. So what would you tell those people?
Yeah, yeah. When you're going through with someone, give them whatever time they need. Whatever
Mm,
whatever they ask for. When they say, when you tell them, I'll do anything for you. Truly mean that. And if that's going and getting some milk, some eggs,
right.
picking the kids up, taking them somewhere, I think it's important to have that as part of your life.
Yeah, definitely. As somebody that has been through something like that, I had a ton of people tell me, I'm here for you. Just let me know what I can do. And that is helpful. But as someone that's actually went through something where it's almost, you feel inaudible to tell somebody what to, how to help you.
Yeah,
Um, it's those people that are the closest to you that just come over. I had a handful of girlfriends that came the next day and just cleaned my house. So it was very helpful for somebody to just be like, "We are here. This is what we're doing for you. We know that this is the last thing you need to deal with." So, I mean, that would, not that these are my questions, but that's something I
yeah,
would tell someone too. Just try to be as patient with that person going through that grief as you can,
yeah,
because you
yeah.
just don't know what's going on in their head.
Yeah, it's important that, if you are a church going people, having that support and that being able to see that, it really, again, doesn't make it easier, but it helps get you through it, a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Often families have to make dozens of decisions within a 24 hours of a loss. In your experience, what is the hardest decision for families to make during the arrangement conference, and how do you help guide them through it?
Ooh, most often it's whether to do, a burial or cremation is probably the one where people are still torn. Even today, where it's so accepted, we still see so many people who struggle with it. Sometimes it's just purely financial. Sometimes it's just practical. People, like I said, people who don't live here, and so that that they want to be able to have their loved one with them. So those are the hardest decisions. And when again we go back to talking about this, when you haven't had those conversations, those f- those decisions feel so heavy to that person making them, because they want to honor you, and they want to do right by you. So that can be very difficult.
Absolutely. And I know for my situation, we actually had a conversation just a couple months before he passed away. And even in that moment, I still wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. So I think people should definitely have it in writing what they want if they can. I mean,
Yes.
like we've both said, it's extremely hard conversation to have, but um, that's part of your relationship with your persons. I mean, whether it be a
Yeah,
parent or your spouse, the tough conversations are to be had. So I
you're
think that
exactly
that's
right.
something, yeah, that's very important. Can you tell us about pre-planning or prepaying for your own funeral?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And this is something that I encourage wherever you are. You should definitely, find a funeral home that you trust. Call them, go into these places. They should be giving you pricing as soon as you walk in the door, and they should be, explaining everything to you. And there are so many options. There are so many cremation options. There are so many burial options. And if you want something, don't be afraid to ask for it. Uh, the meeting with your pre-need advisor, they're going to do everything ahead of time so that they can take a little bit of that burden off. You can even prepay. That's another part of the burden that can be heavy sometimes is having that sudden expense. So those are things that prepayment helps. Funerals average between $7,000 to $9,000 if you look at the National Funeral Directors Association, and cremations, between probably three to seven. And like I said, there's traditional cremations where you can still have your traditional service, and then have cremation afterwards. And the sky's the limit. We can certainly accommodate all religions, and I've seen the industry change so much. It's becoming so personalized, and I love to see the families come in and put those little personal touches. It just makes it nice. Yeah, a good memory, and that's what we're looking for.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that that was our main goal, looking back, is to make sure that Tim was remembered in a way that he would have loved. So for us, like, we made sure everybody wore either UCF, which is his alma mater, or black and gold. Um, he was law enforcement, so we had his brothers and sisters there in their uniforms. Um, so looking back, I just hit Monday was 2 years since he passed
Oh,
away.
wow,
So
wow.
yeah. So the early part of this week has been a little hard. It's getting easier as the week goes on, as it does. Grief is just ebbs and flows, especially that's how I kind of deal with
Yeah.
it. But um, I haven't actually ever looked at the pictures. Some people had sent me pictures, but I haven't looked at them. But I'd like to go back and look at them. Can you talk a little bit about the preparation process? So specifically, when like a passing has been traumatic or the person has been sick for a long time, how do you work to restore their appearance to give the family a peaceful memory?
Yeah, certainly. There are several techniques that we can use, depending on what it is, and we see a lot of that. We have different fillers, believe it or not, we can use fillers to fill people out who have lost a lot of weight, emaciation, and cancer patients. Of course, embalming always preserves the body and always gives you the best viewing option, and that allows us to kind of prepare your whole body, and it prepares your skin for the makeup, and kind of just makes you look presentable. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. On the cremation side, we still get people ready for private family views where they see them unembalmed, and those are permissible too. And certainly every situation is different, so we try to accommodate everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. It can be uncomfortable to talk about money and death in the same sentence. What is one question you wish every family would ask regarding costs or packages before they signed any paperwork?
Uh, Certainly asking about all the options. Are there other caskets that you don't have here? Are there other urns that you're not showing? Things that you can sub out there. It's always, it should never be about the money, but you have to make those decisions responsibly as well,
Mhm.
and making sure you get what you want. But make sure to ask any question. I so many people that just they're afraid to ask because they think it's a stupid question. There probably isn't any question I haven't heard. So always ask those.
I love that. Thank you for that. Uh, you meet people on the worst days of their lives. Have you ever witnessed a specific moment of grace, or maybe an interaction from a family member, or a moment of peace in the arrangement room that stuck with you personally? You don't have to give any details if you don't want to, but
Yeah. Most of them come, during the service when I'm standing in the back after, the preparation is done, and people are going through, watching people come together, watching people
yeah,
tell the stories about their life. And sometimes I often wonder, did this person even know this? Like, what would they be saying if they had all these people just pouring out their love?
right.
That's something, just it amazes me to see, and I see it all the time. Music is sung differently. It's a whole different experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we get so caught up in the day to day that we don't realize that we don't communicate our love for people. I mean, obviously, I love you. I love you too. but I mean, like, actually communicating with the people you love, because I remember, and it actually just came up on my memories on Facebook. I wrote a post a few days after he passed where people had reached out to me so much that I didn't even realize cared about him. And I
Yeah.
remember saying, this man would sit and be upset that he didn't think he had anybody like that. He didn't think he had friends. And to it used to upset me that he just never knew. And there was over 400 people at his funeral. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything. I'm just
No, no,
saying
that's a
there
testament to who
were
he
people,
was.
absolutely, and there were people that loved that man. And it's so, I still get choked up thinking about that he didn't know that. But I obviously believe in God, and I do believe that, he did see that. So it's just unfortunate that he didn't get to experience that. So my tip for you guys listening is that you need to make sure that you tell your loved ones, friends, family, that you let them know that you love them and what you
Yeah.
love about them, and share those memories with each other when you have the chance to, for sure.
Yeah, there's this huge trend in California where they're actually for hospice patients, they're having the funerals before they pass away. And they
Oh,
just, they surround the person, they just tell them, the stories and how much they love them. To me, that's awesome, because
I
they
love
get
that.
to leave knowing, hey, I was loved. I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine being sick in those moments and not really knowing that.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. How do you protect your own heart? And how do you go home to your family and enjoy life after spending a day surrounded by sorrow and death?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. It's actually one that through my whole career, I've struggled with. It's hard not to take those things home with you,
Sure.
but certainly wonderful wife, good children. I found some hobbies. I'm a Pokemon collector, so I like to
Oh,
do that, and I
nice.
do trading
Okay.
cards. So I just do a lot to try and stay active, but it is something that it's just not talked about. The funeral industry, funeral directors are supposed to be so tough, and they're supposed to be able to handle everything, but we carry the burdens too. We see sides of it and stuff that we can't talk about even to the family sometimes. So it can definitely it can be difficult at time, but I have a good support system around me.
I think that's probably the most important thing is
Yeah.
your support system, for sure. That's awesome. As someone who watches the funeral end and the friends go home, what is the one thing you think grieving families actually need from their community in the weeks after the service is over?
Grace,
Mm,
time,
time,
support. Yep. Yep.
all of the
You know,
things. Yeah.
call them, not just the day after, the week after, the month after, keep asking how they are. And if they turn down your invitations, keep asking them. They're not turning around because they don't want them. They're just so overwhelmed. They have so many invitations, but just keep asking, keep helping.
Yeah. But I do have a core group of people, I would say like three or four, that still check on me, not even just on the hard days, but just randomly throughout the month. Or especially, I don't live in Florida anymore. I live in Tennessee. So my support system is very low here, and I've made a few great friends here. But it's nice to still be thought of, because my grief doesn't it changed, but it hasn't ended.
Oh
So
yeah,
for me,
yeah,
it's still nice to be thought of, because my life is not what I thought it was going to be. So
sure,
it's nice
sure,
to be
yeah,
thought of still, for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, Josh, was there anything that you wanted to tell our audience that maybe we didn't cover in those questions that you think is important to know about your line of work?
No, I think we've covered it. I think this is a great conversation, and when we talked about this, I was very excited because again, I don't think people talk about this enough. It
Right.
doesn't have to be scary, these are great conversations to have, and again, I just encourage you talk to your family, get your ducks in a row, and just have things ready because you just never know when things are going to come your way.
Absolutely. Yep, definitely. All right. So to end our little segment here, I have some rapid fire round questions.
All right,
Are we
okay,
ready?
I'll do
Okay.
my best.
Okay. Buri- Burial or cremation or something else for you?
Cremation.
Okay. What is the most overplayed funeral song you have ever heard?
Go rest high.
Yes. What's the weirdest item a family has ever asked to put in a casket?
The glass eye.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, okay. I mean, it
They
was
didn't
there.
want it.
Get it
Yeah, they didn't want it with them. They wanted it just with
in?
them, not
Oh,
yeah. No,
not
it was
in
just like
them?
in the little drawer.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Which movie or TV show gets your job wrong the most?
Oh, I think any crime show gets it wrong, just like the way the bodies look, and I can't even watch it because I'm like, no, that's not even close.
You're like, I know that person's alive.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, wait a minute.
Awesome. What is one thing every person should have in their in case of death folder?
um, life insurance information, even
Mm,
if you have none, just yes or no.
yes, love that. Uh, Flowers or in lieu of flowers?
Ooh, for me, in lieu of flowers. If
Okay.
I was president, I would probably ban all flowers. I'm just not a flowers person.
You're like over it. Love
But
it.
yeah, definitely donations for sure.
Nice. What's your go-to comfort food after a long day at the funeral home?
Meatball sub.
Oh, okay. Homemade or like Subway?
Homemade for sure.
Okay. Awesome. What is the most beautiful cemetery you have ever visited?
Oh gosh, I don't even know the name of it, but I went to one in Miami that was just it was right
Okay.
on the water, and it was the largest cemetery I'd ever seen in my life. They had uh some sections that were like burials 3 level high, like in the
Oh
sky.
wow.
When I was there was a mariachi band having a funeral.
Gosh.
It was just people everywhere. It was one of the coolest things to see. I wish I could remember it, but it was really
Oh
awesome.
wow. That's really neat. Okay, it timed out on me. Okay, finish the sentence. This is our last one. Death isn't as blank as people think.
Ooh, death isn't as I don't know. Death isn't as scary
Yeah.
as
I would
everyone
that's what I would
thinks.
have went with.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
There can be some healing through death.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You come to find yourself through things too. So
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, we thank you so much for being
Yep.
on
Thanks
Grace
for having
After
me.
Grief. Yes, thanks so much. And I will shoot it back to us in the studio to close the segment out. Bye, guys. All right. Well,
Man, that
again,
was awesome.
yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
so much for taking the time to do that with him.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Josh, for helping
Thanks,
us.
Josh. Yeah, I think one thing, if anything, that I've learned from just speaking with him and this whole process in general is that you need to talk. No matter if you write it down, obviously that is definitely we need to be writing things down. We'll be talking about that soon. But the worst thing that you could do is not let your loved ones know what you want, you know? I mean, it's already a crazy process and the grief fog and all of that is
Oh my
just
gosh,
there
it's so
and
much.
if you've never been through it, it's intense. So to have those either written down or even just communicated with your loved ones is such a gift to them in the darkest times for sure.
It is for sure. And we don't like to have those conversations. Everybody's so like, oh, I don't want to talk about death.
Hmm.
And but you need to.
Yeah.
And even like you said, if you just take a couple of minutes and write them down, we're working on a workbook that we're going to put together
Yeah.
to be able to make it easier to have all of those things. And then we also, I think the next couple of episodes we'll have Pam Carlson, who's a local attorney here in Lake
Yeah.
Placid, kind of help us and guide us in those things as well, and what needs to be done, and like the basics all the way up to the most complicated.
Yeah.
And but the hardest part is just open the door, have the conversations. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And once you're there, then just like us, you start talking about death, and it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like planning a vacation.
dark humor. Yes. But hopefully, if you say yes to Jesus, it's the best
Yes,
vacation you're
that's
ever
right.
going to have.
Amen.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So before you even sit down to start drawing up any paperwork for what you're leaving behind for your family and your wishes, we hope that you say yes to Jesus. That's the biggest thing, because then the peace that you leave your family is immeasurable.
Absolutely.
To know that you can be reunited again with your family member that you've lost, and that they're waiting. They're no longer in pain. I know people say that, oh, they've gone on to a better place. But when I tell you they've gone on to a better
Right.
place.
Amen.
So if you have not accepted Christ yet, reach out to us. We would be happy to have that talk with you or put you in touch with someone who can help you with that.
Definitely.
So,
And also remember to like, share, subscribe to our channel. Find us on Facebook at Grace After Grief Podcast. And if you have any questions or feedback for us, please leave them in the comments below. Also, you can always contact us via email at graceaftergriefpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it for this interview episode. On to episode 5, and we will see you guys next month. Have a great one. This is Grace After Grief, our story for His glory. Bye.